Question, is rapport important? Is rapport important? Joe Paul, you had it perfect the first time. Good. Is rapport important? And also, if let's just assume it is, right? Rapport is important. What is it? What is rapport? What is rapport? Does anyone want to have a go at what rapport is? Just type in the questions window, please. Have a go. It doesn't have to be right. I don't even know if my definition is right. I've got a definition, but I know what Wikipedia says, but does that mean that's what it is? Okay, so Brad says creating a connection with a client. Yep, definitely. Christina says small talk to build a connection. So there's that word connection again. Steve says that connection feeling. So a lot of connection, yeah. And I want to dig down below connection because connection is kind of a high level word, right? Connection's a high level word, but I want to know what sort of connection. I'm going to ask that again, a bit deeper. Francis says the client feels that you understand them. Yeah, so some people, I was on the beach with a friend of mine recently and I said, what's rapport, Steve? And he said, it's where you've got empathy. I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, it's where you both feel you understand each other. And I said, but do I need to understand you 100% for us to have rapport? And he said, no, probably not. So it's all right. Well, okay. I mean, I definitely think understanding each other is helpful. Kathy says trust, making sure the other person knows you are truly listening to them. Okay, so is rapport trust, or does trust come when you have rapport? Does trust come from when you have rapport, or does rapport come from when you have trust? Interesting. Jaipal says good communication. Right, but does good communication, is that a symptom of rapport? Or do you get rapport because you have good communication? What's the source of rapport? Dove says a meeting of the mind. Right, so which is kind of like that connection, isn't it? Our two minds are kind of, some people say synced up. Joe Paul says building trust. Brad says an emotional connection. Interesting. A personal emotion. Right, okay. Chris Doctor says a personal emotional connection. Okay. Brad says the client feels like you understand them and their situation. Right, and then trust comes from rapport. Jaipal says being reliable can build rapport. Okay, but could someone who's reliable, they might be reliable, but you don't really resonate with them? That could happen too, right? Yeah, he's reliable, but I don't like him. Relatable. Sorry, you're right. There's me not wearing my glasses. Relatable. Okay, good discussion. All right, so let's progress. Wikipedia says a close and harmonious relationship in which people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. Right. I don't know if that's it. Right. I know groups concerned understand each other's feelings and ideas, but how that might be once again, I think that's a symptom of rapport. Communicating well, understanding the other person's feelings. Okay, let's see. So why is rapport important? So let's put it in a project winning, we could put it, I know in life it's important to have rapport. Maybe it's the ultimate social skill. If, you know, because everything we've talked about, almost everybody said connecting with another human being. And this thing of connecting with another human being seems to be really important. It's important for your health, I suppose. It's important for deal making. It's important for getting things done. And it kind of seems like when we have the right level of rapport with someone, we win projects or we win deals. When we don't have that rapport, we don't. So I decided we were going to buy a car, and we go into a car. I knew the car I wanted, knew the price I would be able to get it for. The salesman really had to do nothing. You know, I wanted that car, and had a bit of a chat wanted to sit in it and have a look around and just check it out and all that type of thing. And the car salesman was talking to my wife, and while I was in the car, and then as time went on, you know, we were there for a while. Like, I was going to buy it, and then my wife comes up and says, "You're not buying the car from him." I said, "Why not?" She said, "I'll tell you later. I just don't like him. Right? I don't care if you can buy this car, just not from him. If you can't buy it from him, if he's the only one that you can buy it from at this yard, we'll go somewhere else. You are not going to buy it from him." Right? Now, he'd lost rapport somehow. I can't even remember what he said or did. Didn't really matter, but it was a done deal. He didn't have to do anything except keep his mouth shut, or not offend my wife. But that can happen, right? That can happen. You can lose. You know, if you lose rapport, you can lose a deal. Now, you don't have to. If you're in competition with 3 or 4 other architects, you don't have to offend anyone not to win the deal. But it's highly likely there's a large correlation between who has the most rapport with a client and who wins the deal, right? Now, I know there are factors. Maybe it's if it's a $5 million house, and there's one woman who does $5 million houses, and she's got all the experience, and you've only done a $2 million house or something like that. I know there are factors like experience that do come into it, but all things being equal, I believe rapport, or that emotional connection, plays a large part, maybe the largest, right? Maybe the largest. And your ability to do rapport determines what sort of projects you win. I was a copier salesman in the 90s, and selling copiers was not my passion. And in fact, at the start of my career selling copiers, I wasn't very good because I really had no interest in technology, particularly compared to some of the other guys. And I had, no particular interest in photocopiers. In fact, they're hardly life-changing devices, but you could make some quite good money selling copies if you're good at it. That's why I went into it. Not a bad reason, but I really did start to enjoy it when I realized what I was really selling. And as I got to do more and more deals, I started to understand what I was really selling. And what I learned was it was never the copier. I was never selling the copier, right? I was never selling the copier, and I knew that. It took me about probably a year to work this out. I wasn't selling the copier. I was selling myself. Selling copiers is a rapport competition. It is a relationship building competition. That's all it came down to. And if someone else had a better price or other features or something else, if I had the best rapport or the best relationship with that buyer, they would tell me. They would tell me what I needed to do to win the deal, right? And so, I was very blatant about it to the other salespeople. It's a popularity competition. That's what it was. And I was selling me. So I went in right from the first meeting knowing that I was what was being sold. It was, you know, because there is some after sales service and you do look after them afterwards to some degree. And if things go wrong, they want to know that you're going to look after them, all that type of stuff. But I knew exactly what I was selling, and I think that's why I was a good copier salesman. And at the high point, I was doing 400% of my budget for copiers. So we had something like a $60,000 in the 90s, 60,000 worth of copiers you had to sell a month, and I was doing 200 for a period. But it's because I'd worked out what I was selling. I was selling me. And so therefore I became very conscious of, all right, how do I want to project myself? And, you know, how do I get rapport? So why? And why do people, you know, now, when people say no to you, this is the interesting thing. When people, you know, let's say you lose a project and they say, no, you know, someone else was cheaper, or they'll say someone else was a better fit, or they'll say, oh no, you know, they could do it sooner than you, and that type of thing, or they, you know, they're prepared to do something for free, that they'll do the, yeah, they won't do an LCC and charge me, they'll do it for free, or something like that. They're going to give us a whole lot of sketches and you won't do that, right? Those are the things they'll say. I don't think in most cases that's actually the truth. It might be in some cases, but I think in most cases is you didn't get a good enough, you didn't win the relationship battle. You didn't get a good enough rapport. Because if you would have, these things would have bent in your favor, right? And I knew as a copier salesman, and I think it's no different as an architect. I mean, of course, it's a little bit different, but I think the principle is the same, that they will help you out. If you're in a competitive situation, they'll tell you what you need to do if you have rapport, if you've number one on the relationship competition, right? Conversely, if I lose a deal, it's because they were helping someone else out, right? And I remember a deal, and this guy rings up, and he's a purchasing manager for Fujitsu. And I knew my friend who worked for another copier company always sold stuff to him. His name was Michael. I know his last name too, but it didn't matter. And this guy was ringing up to get a quote from me for 2 copiers, a 30 copy a minute machine and a 50. And as soon as he said his name, I thought, this guy always buys his copies off my friend. My friend has plays golf with him, My friend has him in his pocket. And I told my sales manager, and he said, oh, he's just getting quotes. He said, he's got to get 3 quotes. There's no way you're going to win this deal. There's no way you're going to win it. So why don't we give him, just to stuff up the deal for Billy, and Billy was the copier guy at the other sales company. Why don't we just give him prices at cost? Because he's not going to buy from you. And that way, Billy is going to have to reduce his cost if he wants to match it and sell it for nothing. So this guy, Michael, said, all right, well, it's probably going to be a 30 copy a minute machine. Give me just your standard price for the 50 and give me a price for 30. It's probably going to be the 30 that we're going to buy. So me and my boss said, all right, what we'll do is we'll give him cost price for 30. And we did that. And we gave him cost price for 50. We didn't win the deal, right? We didn't win the deal. And in fact, this guy took our quote and showed it to my friend, because my friend told me later on. He showed it to Billy and showed him what we were doing because it was so cheap. And I'm not sure whether Billy had to match the price or something like that, but that's exactly what goes on. He took our quote. He didn't want to deal with me. He didn't have a relationship with me. He had a relationship with Billy. He wanted Billy to win. He had to get 3 quotes, so he just used me as a quoting horse. No, he didn't say that. He would have made up some other lie, right? But that's the truth.